Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Tomo, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Captain.
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 No, not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K, a mere 2 miles east of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the Capitol building in downtown Sacramento, 10th and L Streets, where late at night you can hear the death of common sense and its concomitant wail as it wafts from that putrefying edifice. It is Thursday night, September 3rd, the year of our Lord 2020. Be forewarned, what you're about to hear for the next 2 hours consists of my opinion and no one else's. Also, because of the fear porn that has gripped this nation, the saloon isn't open, but I'm still serving stiff drinks, facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, intent, and common sense out the back door. A reminder, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law, we talk about it all here at the saloon where the speech is free. But the booze still is not, I'm losing big money on this. This is 2020. I myself am personally done with bipartisanship or compromise. This is the new age of modern political warfare. Because make no mistake, we are at war. But we have to have, as I say, we have to have a sense of rationality, context, and proportion. And in terms of proportion, I've got a return of a great guest here tonight. Everything can't all be about politics. Sometimes the Zep has to have some fun, and I enjoy speaking to authors, as you well know. So here's the Dealio 1.0. I'm sorry, this is Dealio 1.12. That's right. We'll be speaking to author Terrence McCAULEY in the first hour. And then in the second hour, okay, all right, we'll be getting into politics. But in the meantime, there is a gentleman on the line right now that I've had on this show. This will be, let me see, Terrence McCAULEY, this will be your 5th time here in the saloon. So I welcome you back, my friend. It is good to hear you again because this is a late night show. I'll try to be kind. You have been one busy MFer in the past year, Trust me when I tell you, we'll get to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, and for you, Terrence, I think you already know this, but one of the reasons it's a late night show is, if any poo-poo nasties fall out of your purse, that's okay. Nobody really cares. We're not on the broadcast waves, and I'm not impinged by the FCC. In SHR Media, let me ask you this, and let me throw it out to the folks in the land of Nod. Oh, God, the land of Nod. Okay, it's 8:06 p.m. on the left coast, which means it's 11:06 p.m. on the east coast. So, number one, as I am wont to do, Terrence McCAULEY, thank you so kindly for being here so darn late at night, because you are in the state of New York. So, thank you for that immediately.
Of course.
And
no reason to thank me.
Number two, should folks wish to call in, and sometimes folks do, sometimes they don't, would it be okay if folks wanted to talk to you and call in and ask you a question or make a comment? Absolutely.
Comments, reviews, talk about anything. It's all wide open as far as I'm concerned. I love hearing from people.
Okay, great. So folks, I've said this before, but there is a big difference. Let's see. Terrence, you were last on January 16th of this year. A few things have changed since January 1st of this year. One of them, which is a good thing, although Facebook has been throttling the crap out of me, I discovered that my audience has expanded to about kind of topic-driven dependent, anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 plus more people on the show. Facebook, of course, doing its absolute very finest. Thank you, Facebook. Mark, thanks for throttling the crap out of me and then suspending me for the past month. Really enjoyed that part. That was fabulous. So I may have a number of people here who have not heard you before, and Terrence McCAULEY is an author. Well, let's just start at the start. Terrence McCAULEY, you're an author of suspense novels, history, and now westerns. I tried to count your books, and I think, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I think you've got 14 books now?
I have 14 books out under my name, and I've ghostwritten 2 in a genre and for an author I can't talk about. So it's a total of 16.
16, okay. All right, that's why always check with the person you're interviewing to make sure that you're correct about these things. Very important. Thank you, Terrence. You are published so far by Paulus Books and most recently by Pinnacle Books and now Berkeley Books. And we will also we will get into that. I spoke to you about A Murder of Crows, and then 2 more times, and like I said, the last time was on January 16th. We got to know Terrence fairly well, and I know the encapsulation will be a little redundant to you, but you are a proud native of the Bronx in New York City. So as far as, let me put my thinking cap on and see if I can myself encapsulate appropriately. You were born and raised in the Bronx in New York, and you spent the first 27 years of your life there. You graduated from Fordham University. I think Vince Lombardi graduated from Fordham, if I'm not mistaken.
And coached the football team.
Yeah, okay. And you wanted to be an FBI profiler. You changed your major to political science. You had the luxury of, in New York, being able to walk to school. You've been working in government most of your life, except for something that we'll get to in 2019. You became a political junkie really young, at the age of like 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or something like that, when the conventions were starting. I think Reagan was involved. It was like either Reagan Mondale or something like that.
Yeah, it was the 1984 convention for both parties. And it's funny, I mean, I'd like to say that I got attracted to it by the high values and the political discourse, but it was really because I was 10 years old and the New York Daily News had a cartoon diagram of how the convention was set up, where the different delegates were, and what the role was going to be for the event. And for some reason, on that particular day, the Democrats came first. I got hooked on that graphic, and like the little geek I was, I sat in front of the television with the whole diagram laid out before me and watched it on Channel 13. The Democrat convention, checking off who was speaking, everything that was going on about it until that was over. And then when the Republican convention came on, I did the same exact thing because they had another diagram there. And of course, that was the year that Lee Atwater ran that commercial that a lot of people remember, "It's Morning Again in America." And when I was 10, that's the one that really influenced me the most. So I gravitated more to that side of the aisle than what I had seen from the Mondale group.
You got into politics way before I did. So that's kind of an indicator that politics and history have been a consistent love of yours, Terrence McCAULEY, as well as movies. And someday, I always said, we haven't done yet because you've been so damn busy. I just want to sit down and have like maybe a half hour with you to talk about, okay, what's your favorite movie? I'm a movie geek, so to speak. Terrence comes from a long line of storytellers, and I remember this specifically because you enjoyed drawing when you were young, and I applied to and was accepted to the Joe Kubert School of Cartooning, which is in the state of New York, back in the 70s. So I remember that aspect of you as well. You admire a lot of people that switch genres, and to me that is also critically important in terms of your writing. You like Richard Matheson. Richard Matheson wrote some classic, The Incredible Shrinking Man. Oh, damn, they're on the I Am Legend.
Yeah, Where Dreams Come True.
Where Dreams Come True. Just a classic sort of sci-fi, but yet crossed the genres author, as well as Matthew Riley, who's written a ton of books. And the last one I finished of his was Ice Station. And that brings us up today. You've got 4 books out now that we've spoken about in the past from your concern called The University. These are suspense books. And your protagonist in these books is James Hicks. And they include Sympathy for the Devil, A Murder of Crows, A Conspiracy of Ravens, and then you kind of went back in time with the Fairfax incident as to how The University got started. The University, well, I don't know. I can't really describe it. Terrence McCAULEY, what is The University?
Well, the University is an organization that I made up that is loosely affiliated with the intelligence complex of the United States. I didn't want to write another book about the CIA because that's been done to death, and it's been done by people better suited to cover that than I am because they actually worked there or they knew someone there or they did a lot of research there. And for me, research is important, but I enjoy writing a lot more than I do researching something I, A, don't know much about, and B, will never get completely right, no matter how much research I do. And my biggest fear is always when I write that once it's published, someone's going to pop up and say, aha, you made this mistake, or oh no, this is ridiculous, it ruined the whole book for me, and I got rid of it because that detail just didn't make any sense. So what I did was create an organization known as the University, which in its history was created by Eisenhower by executive order to be an outlier of the military-industrial complex. It was supposed to be different and apart and self-funding from all of those other, from the CIA, the NSA, and the other members of the alphabet soup. It also gave me the liberty to be able to create my own organization with my own history in my own way, and not to be obsessed with a lot of the technical details like a Tom Clancy was. Now, Tom Clancy's books are excellent. Tom Clancy's books have sold incredibly well, and that's because, A, he was a great writer, and he picked great topics, and 2, he also did a tremendous amount of research. So it was the kind of research I wasn't interested in doing, so I focused more on spycraft that was in the general area of everyday knowledge, things I had read on the internet, things I had read in journals about near technology, technology that was already in place, but we're coming down the line 2 or 3 years ahead. So it allowed me to be creative. It allowed me to create a great cast of characters that a lot of people like, and it was a thrill to write.
We've spoken about your suspense novels on the 4 prior shows. And again, I'd like to reiterate, if you guys want a great suspense series involving a gentleman by the name of James Hicks, kind of not who you expect, you can find Terrence McCauley's books, Sympathy for the Devil, A Murder of Crows, A Conspiracy of Ravens, The Fairfax Incident, wherever good books are sold. And they can be gotten in a number of formats, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm here mostly tonight to speak of what you've done most recently. Before I get to that, and of course I will, I do this every time, but I feel an imperative to do this. I got to take a moment. I've read all your books. I've purchased all your books. I will continue to read all of your books, now and in the future. I enjoyed getting to know you and read you early because I can see a difference between who you were as an author in the beginning and who you are now. We will also get to that. I think it's illuminating as a reader to watch you really, now especially 2019 and 2020, dude, you have exploded. So I'll say it again, and I'm not, folks, I'm not getting anything from Terrence. I'm not getting anything from the publishers. I'm not getting paid for any of this stuff. I don't make money on the show. My show is a money loser. But I got to tell you, your books just get better and better with each one. Like I said, it's fascinating to watch you expand your skills. Your writing chops just get better. You have kicked being a writer to the curb. You are clearly proudly, and I should hope you are an author. And Terrence, I have enjoyed every step and every book along the way. So from me to you, you are a great author, and I find it just... It's amazing to watch you grow. Now, that's not meant as an insult. It's meant as an observation in terms of watching your career, because we're on the opposite of coasts, but I kind of consider you like a friend because I've gotten to know your characters. I get to know you by speaking to you.
Right.
And it's like, I want to continue to purchase and read all your books to find out what you have in mind for me and all the other readers. So the other thing that I want to refer to is because I noticed this has changed too. You have a brand new website, and if you want to find out everything about Terrence McCauley, go to Terrence-McCauley, MCCAULEY, .squarespace.com. When I get into the chat room, I'll write the link in there. And again, welcome to Sergeant Booker in chat, Mike in chat, Whiskey Dale in chat, Jack Alexander in chat, Alaskan, Leslie Holker in SHR chat, also Jeremy Hansen in Facebook chat, Leslie's in Facebook chat, Jimmy Collins in chat, and Josh is in chat in Facebook. So thanks to everybody being here and watching tonight. Terrence McCauley, TERRENCE hyphen McCauley, MCCAULEY .squarespace.com. Dude, that is a beautiful website. You can find all of his stuff there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's Squarespace is a great platform for anybody. I know a lot of people use Wix. Squarespace isn't free, but they have a lot of great templates in there. I highly recommend them.
2019 has been a challenging year. 2020 is even worse. On Facebook, we addressed this last time, but it will meld into where I'm going. It's about life. On Facebook, you lost your job in 2019 due to something that every one of us has experienced. Every one of us has experienced a clash with management of some sort.
Yep.
You wrote in Facebook that 2019 was a wild year. I was out of work for the first time in my life, and I sank lower than I've ever been. My new job, though, is light years ahead of my old job, and I work with wonderful people. I wrote more this year, that's 2019, than any other year before, and I pushed myself too hard. By November of 2019, I was shot, but I kept grinding. Not good. Somehow I managed to stay off the booze, though I don't know how or why. Bottom line, I learned to be as good to myself as much as I can, when I can, because life is not a union shop. The amount of time you put in doesn't count. Only the quality of the time does. Make it count in 2020. That's what you wrote in 2019.
Yep.
So we talked about that in the last show, but so much more has occurred. You acquired a new job, which you like, for one, so kudos to you for that. You don't live in New York City. You live in the state of New York, north of New York City, in a county north of there. But in terms of politics and overall impact, 2020 has been absolutely the year of insanity, like fear, loss, change, and sometimes worse. And nobody is unaffected. You can't experience a situation like this and not commit to a little introspection. Sure. And perhaps some self-examination. So to start off, Terrence McCAULEY, how has 2020 impacted yourself and maybe even your family? With me, and I'll be honest, it is not only a physical challenge, but it's a big mental one too.
Oh, it certainly is, and especially because of the dynamic problems that we've had facing us. I mean, first it was COVID-19, and everybody, including myself, thought, oh, it was just going to be like the avian flu hoax, and it wasn't. It was real. I know of several people who died from it here in New York and in other places. We've all read about it and seen about it on the news. It's been a real wake-up call, and what I wrote in 2019 about being good to yourself and putting things in perspective really holds true, especially now, because we've seen the fragility of life, and we've seen the fragility of our way of life. And it has come under attack constantly this year, first from the pandemic, then things being shut down, then them being reopened a little bit, then the protests starting, and the internal civil war that we've had between certain states wanting to reopen quicker than others, some state governments saying yes, some state governments saying no. It's been a year of warfare and combat, and then some people across the country have had weather issues to deal with.
Oh, got it.
And severe flooding and fires and everything. I mean, it's just terrible.
Perfect point. I completely forgot about that too. Okay, I'm monitoring two chat rooms simultaneously. Over in the Facebook chat, Jimmy Collins asks, "Did you write Splinter Cell?"
Oh, no, I did not. I wish to God I did. That's a great series to be part of. But
okay.
No, I did not write Splinter Cell. I would love to at some point, though, but no, I did not.
Okay, Leslie in another chat room says, "Terrence, was one of your books made into a video game?"
Oh, I wish it was. No, they weren't. All of my stuff, if you read it, and just to the side, if you go on Amazon or in your local bookstore and you read the description of any of my books, no matter what the genre is, if you like the description, from the feedback I've gotten, chances are you're going to like the book. And if you don't think that the book is for you, after reading the description, I would suggest don't buy it, because you're probably not going to like it. The descriptions have been pretty accurate, I have to say, and I've been very pleased with those.
Okay.
But no, nothing's been made into a video game. I wish it was. I'm also hoping to have some of them made into movies as well, but that's a whole other business that has its own dynamics.
Okay, well, I tell you, there's some people behind you wishing that on you, so to speak. Folks, if you want to talk to Terrence McCAULEY, the number is 575-208-4481. Let me put that down in the... Okay, now, the number is down at the bottom of the rolling chyron down at the bottom if you're watching me on Facebook or YouTube. So 575-208-4481, 208-4481. I know it's late at night, but hey, here's a great author to talk to if you should wish to do so. I went to your website. Your bio has changed, and I'm going to use this to like a springboard to another series of questions. Your bio says you're a writer of westerns, crime fiction, thrillers. You're the author of the award-winning Aaron Mackey westerns, Where the Bullets Fly and Dark Territory, published by Pinnacle. This is the part I didn't know. The third and fourth books in the series, Get Out of Town and Dark Sunrise, will be published this year. You do have that third book out. I bought it, but damn it, it didn't get here, so I couldn't read it before tonight's show. I did read The Kelly Trail. Terrence also selected to contribute 3 standalone novels to the successful Ralph Compton series. The Kelly Trail and Ride the Hammer Down are going to be published in 2020 with a third novel in 2021. I know the title of that. We'll get to that. So my guess is that just by examining that, a lot of those things I wasn't aware of, you have just absolutely thrown yourself into some serious writing commitments now.
Yes, I did. And it was all while holding down a full-time job, too. I've since resigned from that position because of a lot of different reasons, but the main one being there were a lot of dynamics going on that just weren't good for me, given everything that's happening, and it was time for me to move on. And I'm currently looking for another full-time job in communications. But while that's happening, as you have said, I have no shortage of writing projects that I can work on, and I'm very fortunate for that. And I'm fortunate that the readers like my work and aren't shy about giving me feedback. And that goes to something you said earlier, that you were very kind and said that you watched me change and grow as a writer. A lot of that has to do with the feedback I've gotten from people. If you have an author that you like, I always suggest that you reach out to them or leave a review on Amazon. It doesn't have to be a 4-star or a 5-star review. It could be a 3-star or a 2-star one, as long as it's honest and it's well thought out. It helps the author. And for me, the feedback I've gotten, the positive as much as the constructive criticism, has put me light years ahead of where I was when I started out. So as long as it's helpful and comes from a good place, I highly recommend it, because it's helped me a lot over the years.
That having been said, I went back to your website and I see one more book coming in your Sheriff Aaron Mackey series called The Dark Sunrise. So
Yep.
I have your first 3 Mackey books. I mean, I physically possess the first one. Folks, if you like westerns, Where the Bullets Fly, Terrence McCAULEY. Dark Territory by Terrence McCAULEY. I ordered, but I haven't yet received, Get Out of Town by Terrence McCAULEY. And now The Dark Sunrise is coming. Perhaps literally these days. Who knows? So, Terrence McCAULEY, for folks who have not listened to you before, you know what? Let me do a little station ID here real quick. I'm not going to go into all the promos because I got too many doggone questions. So, folks, I just want to let you know this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
So for a lot of folks, Terrence McCAULEY, they've not heard you before. Can you let people know a little bit about your Sheriff Aaron Mackey novels, the series, please?
Sure. I mean, anybody who hears my voice knows that I am probably not from horse country. I do not sound like a cowboy. I have a beautiful Bronx accent. That sounds like shit dropping out of an old goat's ass. But anyway, you said I could curse, so I'm cursing. Anyway, but one of the other authors I admire greatly, and people don't realize that he changed genres a lot, is Elmore Leonard. And he got his start writing westerns.
Yes!
And he wrote some phenomenal westerns. He wrote Hombre. I think he wrote 310 to Yuma. He wrote some and the books that weren't made into movies are great too. And as he got older, they asked him, well, how was writing Westerns different than writing about Detroit or writing about modern crime stories or Justified? And he said, it's all a story. It's all a crime story. The setting is different. And sometimes the motivations are different. Sometimes the details are different. But people like Westerns because they're just great stories at their heart. Now, if it tries to be a little too cute, if it tries to be something that it's not, if it tries to be revisionist, I find you tend to lose people. But the classic stories that people of all ages, when they give a Western a shot, tend to like are the ones that they can relate to. So that led me to write the kind of Western I enjoyed and always wanted to read. I'm a big fan of Western books, a big fan of Western movies, and I knew enough about what I didn't want to do, and that was rehash something that had already been done. I didn't want to take a new spin on the Magnificent Seven. I didn't want to do another High Noon character where he's left all alone. I wanted to do something different. So I created a disgraced cavalry officer, Captain Aaron Mackey, who was driven out of the Army for political reasons, and the Buffalo Soldier sergeant who served with him, Billy Sunday. And they are the sheriff and deputy, respectively, in a fictional town in Dover Station, Montana. And it's the two of them who do their best to keep order in this small town where Aaron Mackey grew up, and this town that has adopted his deputy as one of their own, and a diverse set of characters that are in this town, and the political battles that take place between enforcing the law, making Dover Station a better place, and trying to do the right thing. And that's the common theme that is threaded throughout all four books. And I'm happy to say they've been well received.
It's funny you should mention that, because Leslie Holker in SHR chat says his books have great reviews on Amazon.com. I was just checking them out. And Leslie, yeah, that's why Terrence is on tonight. He writes great stuff. If you like suspense, check those books. You like Westerns, and I do too. I haven't read a Western in quite a while, but because it was Terrence, I picked up and started reading his, and I think they're great. Also, Terrence McCAULEY, you have a new book out, published by Berkeley Books in paperback, also a Western. This is the one that I just read. It got here in time, as opposed to the other one that didn't. It's called The Kelly Trail, but there's something significantly different about it. It's published under the name of Ralph Compton. And if you know classic Westerns, I know a little bit about this. Ralph Compton was a Western author. The dude was 6 feet 8 inches tall, born in 1934, died in 1998 at the age of 64, and wrote, I hope you're sitting down, folks, wrote 89 novels. That's that I can find. There may be more, I don't know. So to me, Terrence McCAULEY, it seems like it is a massively grand compliment to your writing skills that somehow you are continuing the tradition of Western author Ralph Compton. So to me, that sounds like a story. Terrence McCAULEY, how did that happen? That's got to be a story.
Yeah, I mean, it happened because I found someone who was looking to shop my work around, and they started talking to Penguin, and Penguin said that they were looking to continue the Ralph Compton series in the future. And the great part about that is that they actually put my name, or the contributing author's name, on the books, so they can help build a following as well. And Ralph Compton was legendary. His books were fantastic. And they have three different versions of the types of stories that were his best that they wish to continue into the future. And one of them is the Trail Drive series. And the other one is the Gunfighter series. And the third one is, I believe, the Stagecoach series. So the Kelly Trail is part of the Trail Driver series.
I have a copy. Well, I brought my copy of the Kelly Trail with me, and I just put it up so everybody could see it on Facebook and YouTube. Like you indicate, it says a Ralph Compton Western, and there's your name on the front cover, as opposed to a lot of others that don't credit the writer, Terrence McCAULEY, right here. Ralph Compton, the Kelly Trail. I just got through with it, but I had to bring my copy in, of course. What did the publisher say about you? Why did they want you to fill the boots of Ralph Compton?
Well, they had seen a lot about my first two Westerns that I had ever written and how well they had been received. They liked the fact that I can write reasonably fast when I'm attracted to an idea, and that I'm pretty easy to work with. And that means I don't fight about the title. I don't fight about what the cover art is going to look like, because I know that better minds than mine understand what that takes, what that entails, what a good title is as opposed to what I suggest. And that I don't have, that I'm not one of these creative types who doesn't appreciate that the publishing business is indeed a business. It is there to make money. The book itself, yes, is a work of art. It's a work of my imagination, but it is ultimately a product, and that product needs to make money. So I appreciate all of that. So that's why publishers and I usually get along quite well. I have a similar wonderful relationship with Pinnacle. They and Kensington Books. They've been absolutely fantastic. So, that's part of what my reputation in the industry is, and that's how I got involved with the legendary Compton series.
I got to say, Terrence McCAULEY, for having produced, 3 books now, but I'm sure this deal occurred, this contract was signed before, how many books, when they decided to go with you for the Ralph Compton series, how many Westerns had you yet published, 1 or 2?
I had only published the first one, but I had a reputation of being good to work with based on my spy thrillers and my historical crime fiction set in 1930s New York. So this one was, I was willing to do it. I had the availability, and that's how I got the 3-book deal with Berkeley, and they've been fantastic.
Oh, okay, so that was my point. That's what I was trying to bring out is, I think that's a major feather in your cap, and a major accomplishment, and massive kudos to you for being asked to continue a series of books from a classic Western author, Ralph Compton, on the heels of your being a single book published Western author at the time. I can't think of better words to say. That speaks volumes about you, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you for that. And yeah, it really is a great honor. I know a lot of people throw that around, but it really was. I knew the mantle that I was taking on, along with a lot of other great writers. If you look up the Ralph Compton series, they don't take just anything. They really vet the writers. They vet the type of story that they want. And that's why it was great to be part of it. And, I enjoyed writing these 3 books. Each one of them it challenged me in a different way. The Kelly Trail, most in particular.
Leslie in chat says to you, Terrence McCAULEY, that's a real hats off to you.
Oh, wow. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, Leslie.
I have to ask you, I think I know the answer to the question. Terrence McCAULEY, is your goal to get to the point where basically writing is it? That's where you're going to make your coin from? That's going to suit all your fiscal needs? I'm guessing yes. That's your end point.
That is yes. I mean, and one way to do that is through continuing to get larger contracts for books, but also the possibility of one of my books getting optioned for a TV series or a movie. That's another way to go too. I mean, and the one thing about that I will say about my stuff is that it's very cinematic, and it's got a lot. It's very visual because I'm a very visual person, and we were talking about movies earlier. I grew up with my father being a huge John Ford fan, not necessarily John Wayne, but a John Ford fan. So, and also the Westerns I grew up watching with him on Channel 13 sometimes at night here in New York were the Anthony Mann, Jimmy Stewart Westerns. So if that had a singing cowboy or a sequined shirt, it wasn't on our television. So it was. So I grew up with a different take on what the Western could be instead of the singing cowboy or some of the 1950s television series that I don't think did the genre justice, but filled the need at the time. I grew up with a more realistic expectation of what the Western could be, which has definitely influenced my writing.
Okay, I get it. People are not interested in calling in, but I'm still getting questions from the chat room. Brilliant. Okay. Love the hell out of this. And this is a great question, to the point where I was going to ask it later on in this interview, and Leslie beat me to it. She said, I'd like to know, can you ask Terrence if writing becomes easier as you write? As I said, my husband is always on me to write a book. Getting started is the hardest part, but does it get a little easier as you go on?
It depends on your approach to it. And anybody who tells you that there's a single way to write a book or even a short story is pretty much lying to you. The best method I know is to quote Neil Gaiman, paraphrase him rather, is to sit down, put one word in front of the other, and keep doing it until it's finished. It's that easy and it's that hard. And there are a lot of different ways to do it. If you're a planner and you want to do an outline first, fantastic. If you're like me, I don't outline. That's just for me. That doesn't mean it works for everybody. I have an idea in my mind well before I sit down to write, and then I start putting it on paper, and then the magic happens where things happen in the story that I'm not anticipating, that I couldn't possibly have thought about if I was outlining it. And that's why I think my writing appeals to so many people, because for me, the story unfolds for me just as it does for the reader. And, that's one method of doing it. But if somebody says you've got a book in you and you should write, by all means, you can do it, especially these days. I know everyone's busy, but also everybody's got an iPhone or an iPad or a computer at home. If you're commuting to work or using public transportation, I know not a lot of people are doing that these days, you can write on your cell phone or your iPad. If you go to bed normally at 10 or 11 o'clock, well, why don't you spend a half an hour writing something and then go to bed at 11:30? There's always ways of finding the time to do it. And I will say, once you start writing, it is an endorphin rush. And when you've hit a scene just right, it's just like hitting a golf ball or a baseball. That sound, that feeling you get when you know you got it just right, that's the best high I've ever had, and way better than anything gin or bourbon ever gave.
Here's a question that I should have asked you the first time I ever spoke to you, but it just entered my brainulus right now. But I was thinking to myself, what would it be like? So, Terrence McCAULEY, what was it like when everything was said and done? And like I'm holding up the book right now, and people can see it on Facebook live streaming and on YouTube streaming right now. Here's a book. What's it like when you physically have, say, this book in your hand, and you look at it, and there's your name on the cover, and there's your name on the spine, and you're holding it in your hand, and it's real? What does that feel like?
Yeah. It feels fantastic. It feels rewarding, and it's such validation, and it's likely the most validation you're ever going to get as a writer. Because if you engage in writing and you expect everybody to fall over themselves to praise you, to encourage you, to cheer you on while you're doing it, good luck, because you're not going to get that. I always tell new writers, be careful, and it's advice I got early on from a wonderful mentor of mine, Wesley Gibson, who's no longer with us, he said, be careful who you tell about you being a writer, because there's a lot of people out there who are going to feel threatened by it. You're doing the one thing that makes us different from all the other animals on the planet. You're using your intelligence for your own pleasure and for entertaining others. And it's something that almost anyone can do, but won't do even if they had the talent to do it. And they feel threatened by that. And so you'll get the people that say, oh, wow, my friend's writing a book, but, it's so difficult. It probably won't be very good. Or, oh, you're going to write a book? Who are you to write a book? Or passive-aggressive things like that. Sometimes they'll come flat out and say you've got no talent and you have no business writing. That's why when I saw the book for the first time with Prohibition, it was just wonderful. It was like this came from my mind. People invested in it. People put a lot of effort into this, and now it's out in the world in a bunch of different formats. So it is, and it's a great feeling. It hasn't gotten old. I've never taken it for granted. And every time the box comes with the box of my books, it's like Christmas morning all over again. I will say that before Where the Bullets Fly, all of my paperbacks were in a larger format. But I was at a dinner with my editor, Gary Goldstein, and several other people. And when he shoved he reached into his bag, and right in the middle of another conversation, he slid Where the Bullets Fly across the table to me. And when I saw it, it was a regular paperback. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit, I got welled up. And he said, don't you like it? And I said, my father used to read this size. And he got it immediately. And the both of us kind of welled up a little bit. And seeing that, I was like, wow, this is something my dad could have seen on a shelf where he bought all of his books and might have read. And so that was really a special moment for me. But that feeling never gets old. It's a phenomenal feeling.
Leslie also said in chat, that has to be the ultimate rush.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's the thing, like, when I quit boozing and everything else, I figured, oh, well, everything's going to be bland from now on. But when I actually see it on Amazon and I see my name pop up in search engines and I get asked to do interviews like this, or recently I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to me who have backgrounds like me, and they say, well, I want to write a Western. And these are people of color. These are people who don't necessarily think that the West holds anything for them. And I'm like, do your research. It really was a pure melting pot out there. And that's beyond politics. That's just the way it was. You had Bass Reeves. You had black business owners and everything. And it wasn't perfect, but there's so much there for us. Our history is so much better and so much more dynamic than what we've seen in some of the movies and some of the television series that literally whitewashed everything. Go out and research, and these people have so many that contacted me, have so many great ideas. I hope both of them write these books because they're absolutely fantastic ideas.
I can tell you immediately that you got at least a couple of readers off of this interview tonight. Leslie Hoker wrote this in chat and kind of released a little bit of her heart in chat. She said, my husband had a stroke in 2013. It affected his vision, and he loves audio books. So I am very glad that Terrence's books are in audio CD so he can listen on his trips away from home. There you go. There's going to be somebody that's going to be purchasing some of your books in audio CD. Your goal... I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
No, I'm saying that's and the fact that they're in audio and someone in his condition can actually enjoy the books in that format. I love hearing that, and I hope he enjoys them. I really do.
How far away are you, Terrence McCAULEY, from your goal of being able to support yourself as just an author?
Pretty far. I mean, these are. It's always great to have these books out there, and but. Right now it's a tough time in publishing, and it always is, but it's an industry that was slow to adapt to technology in terms of ebooks, and then they did. And now I think people are scrambling to see what kinds of genres are going to take off. There's a lot of competition out there for different types of genres. So, if I could support myself by writing full time, it's definitely conceivable, especially if they get optioned for a movie or a series. I'd be over the moon with that. That would be like the ultimate home run. But, I've got a lot of ideas, as you've seen. I've written in a lot of genres. I've got a lot more ideas that I haven't committed to paper yet. But if I'd love to be able to write full time and dedicate myself to this completely.
About a week after I spoke to you on January 16th, I spoke to Joe Wamba. And he and I talked about movies that had been, about his books that had transitioned into movies. He wasn't real happy about a lot of the ones that got changed, so to speak. There's another author that I've had on before that apparently he got a movie deal, then he didn't get a movie deal, then he did get a movie deal, then he didn't get a movie deal. Then there's another author that I had on who was apparently he's going to get a TV series this fall coming. So I only want the best for you. I'm going to make a statement that I'm going to ask you a question. The statement, because of the nature of it, you don't have to answer, but this is just how I'm feeling. When I saw and picked up some of your suspense novels, I read them, I consumed them, I thought they were great. The day that I picked up your Western, Where the Bullets Fly, and I saw that it was published by Pinnacle Books, I looked at that like I'm holding your book now from Berkeley, and I looked at that and I said, you know what? Dude, Terrence, you are in the mainstream now. You've broken the force field. You're here. You are officially arrived. I don't know if you can speak to that because publishers are kind of sensitive about those things. That's just an observation from me. I was so damn happy to see that.
Thank you. So was I. I mean, it really did my heart good, especially since it was my first Western, and I had put a lot of hard work into it to make it seem authentic without sounding like I was pandering to anybody. For example, I made Billy Sunday a Buffalo Soldier, not because I was trying for a niche or something like that. It was because I wanted to be able to show, A, that there were African-American lawmen back then, but B, it allowed me to tell the kind of story and the kind of friendship I wanted to always see in a Western. And I was able to do that with Aaron Mackey's friendship and Billy Sunday. They're two different characters. They push each other. And, one's a deputy and one's a sheriff. One ultimately becomes a marshal and another is a deputy marshal. But at their core, they are rock solid with each other and they're friends. And that's the kind of story that I wanted to tell. And that's why I think a lot of people have related well to Where the Bullets Fly and those two characters.
Verisimilitude, folks. Look it up. Multisyllabic. I liked it, and I liked the way that you applied it. Now, the question that I should have saved for last, but I'm going to ask it now because I'm kind of bigfooting myself now. Are you, Terrence McCAULEY, are you a suspense author who's dabbling in Westerns, or are you an author of Westerns who just happened to start with suspense novels?
I would say that I'm an author and I'm a writer. I don't consider myself in one genre or another. I do throw myself all into whatever project I'm working on at the moment. And, for example, I probably wouldn't be very good at writing a cozy. And that's not a shot at that genre. I wouldn't be good at writing a romance novel or maybe even a science fiction novel either. Again, all great genres. If you love them, fantastic. That's not judgment on the genre. And anyone who makes fun of you for what you read, cut them off because it's nobody's business. You're buying it. You enjoy it. You read all the cozies you want. It's just something that it's just a genre I don't think that I could do very well based on my style and how I tell a story. So I consider myself a writer first. And what genre? It all depends. After for example, I just finished Stagecoach to Hell a couple of weeks ago, sent it to the publisher, and I needed to take a break from Westerns. So I started writing another Charlie Doherty book that's set in the 1930s. And I was fully engaged in that, got 60,000 words down in a couple of weeks. And next thing I know, my editor from Pinnacle said, you've got another book due for another series in about 2 months. So get cracking. So now I'm back into the Western mode. So I'm a genre author that's based in whatever I'm writing at that particular moment. That's the best way I can answer that question.
The other thing is, I would expect that in terms of motivation, you got to be writing something that lights a fire under your ass that you're interested in. Otherwise, why do it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough so far that I've been able to pick my projects, and I've had publishers that have had the faith in me, even if they were skeptical at the beginning, and they said, all right, go ahead. And they ultimately liked what I did. So I'm pretty happy about that. I've been lucky in that regard.
I almost don't want to go here. And for a time, maybe now still too, didn't it feel, apparently in 2019, but now with all the stuff that you're doing, it almost... Is it like you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders falling right down onto your keyboard? I mean, you are a busy... You're talking about a couple of books that I was unaware of. You have to be absolutely busy.
Yeah, I am. It's a good thing. I don't mind my own company because I'm doing an awful lot, and I spend an awful lot of time in my own mind. And if anybody is going to do that, I really suggest that they take care of themselves and allow them and be good to themselves too. There was just an HBO series you might have seen about the person who wrote a book about the Golden State Killer and how her work ultimately led to the capture of the real killer after 40 some odd years of him being on the loose. She ultimately wound up accidentally overdosing on medication, prescription medication. And, the documentary bothered me because it was Patton Oswalt's wife. I don't remember her name, but the documentary bothered me because they kind of equated the author's pain of research and how that research in the case affected her to the same kind of suffering that the victims of the Golden State Killer went through. And I'm like, no, there's absolutely no correlation whatsoever. She chose to go down the rabbit hole, and she chose to write about something that everybody, a mass murderer, which is always going to be dark. There are no bunnies and kittens in baskets at the end of that rainbow. And if you're going to do that, you have to take care of yourself. You have to put up certain mental firewalls to protect yourself as much as possible. And those firewalls might fail. But if you're going to be creative, it is a journey within your own mind. And that's just the way it is. And there were certain dangers and concerns that come with that, especially about the kind of stuff that I write, my spy thriller stuff. I had to take a look at geopolitical realities that weren't always that comforting. And when you go into some of the stuff that Snowden leaked, that was damn dangerous. And it was, so it's always better to make sure you take care of yourself whenever you're going to delve into creativity, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. And that's what I try to do as I'm writing my books. I try to be conscious of that.
Michelle McNamara was the author. The reason I know that is that I bought her book about the East Area Rapist. Here in Sacramento, we know it as the EAR, the East Area Rapist. He had not yet transitioned into killing people. He went into the East Bay area in California, always spell it with a K there. I was on the East Area Rapist detail with one of the first NVG series that we had, sitting in a 1970s Matador waiting for somebody night after night after night. That's how damn old I am. The other part of that is with what I did and also with her, a quote came to my mind from Nietzsche, something about when you gaze too long into the abyss, sometimes the abyss gazes back into you. So mental, physical health, really, really important with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And it's funny. A friend of mine is a Marine colonel, retired. And I remember talking to him way back when Dr. Phil was just hitting his stride. And he said, I hate those shows. And I figured, oh, tough Marine, he doesn't believe in that stuff. But he really surprised me when he said, I hate it because some people have some really complex problems that I don't think can be handled or should be handled or exploited on an hour-long TV show. And that really changed my thinking around, began to change my thinking anyway, around the importance of mental health and just taking it seriously because, yeah, it might not be as bad as a knife wound or a bullet hole, but you can do some serious damage to yourself when you're plumbing the depths of some dark stuff, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. And it doesn't make you a hero. I mean, no one forced me to write these books, but if you're going to do it, you need to also, just like weightlifting or any other kind of undertaking, physical undertaking, mental undertakings require some preparation too.
Terrence McCAULEY, may I solicit your kindness for a few more minutes on the air?
Sure.
I still have a ton more questions to ask when you're getting tired, because literally it's 12:02 p.m., a.m., folks, where Terrence is. He's in the state of New York. I'm way over here at 9:02 on the left coast. So I appreciate you doing that. I'm not going to do a break. I'm just going to do this again to remind everybody.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Also, Leslie in chat said, I just ordered Where the Bullets Fly on audio. My husband's elk hunt in Idaho is coming up soon. If he loves it, I will be buying more.
Great. Thank you very much, Leslie. I appreciate that.
Sergeant Booker in chat also said, reading is theater of the mind. I read several different series of books, and in each one, I get a mental picture of what each character looks like, and that's what a great writer can do. I can't wait to pick up one of Terrence McCAULEY's books.
Oh, well, you know what? I'd also appreciate it if he reaches out to me and lets me know who he envisions playing one of the characters in any of my books. That's always a fun thing for me to do with readers.
And then another person in chat said, hey, tell Terrence thank you very much for sticking it out with us tonight.
Oh, thank you for sticking it out with me. I mean, it's you tune into this kind of a show and you're expected to talk about all the important things of today that are happening and all of the problems that we're facing. And, then you get an author talking about some of his stuff and you're staying with me. So I really appreciate that.
Let's talk about the Kelly Trail for a second, Terrence McCAULEY, if we can. Your first release in the Ralph Compton series. Can you talk a little bit about the book? What's happening here?
Sure. I had always grown up watching one of the movies that I watched as a kid because I had recorded it on the VCR. That's how old I am. Was Red River. And so I always thought that, a trail drive series is kind of like a submarine movie. You always know that there's a certain kind of order that has to happen. They're taking the cattle from one place to another. They meet bandits. They meet people who are trying to take the stuff away from the cattle away from them. And then they have a shootout and everything works out in the end. Just like a submarine movie. I know submarine warfare isn't as clean, but, they go in, they fire on somebody, someone drops step charges on them, the crew is tense, and then they ultimately get out of it. Well, I didn't want to write that same kind of trail novel, so the good people over at Berkeley allowed me to tell it my way, and I created a character by the name of William Bull Kelly, and he did not get his nickname Bull from running cattle drives. He got it because of his skill that he acquired with a bullwhip. And he's better with a bullwhip than he is with a gun, though he's not afraid to use a gun. I was allowed to tell a fairly dark story about a man who wants one thing for his family, but people keep getting in the way of doing that. He's a haunted man, and when he suffers a great loss on the trail, he reacts the only way a man like him can in that time period. And so far, it's gotten some good reviews, and I'm very happy about that.
I read the whole thing. I'm not going to reveal the plot, but I will say that what you'd mentioned earlier is if you're looking for something that is just a stereotypical Western book or something you've read before, this isn't it. This ain't it. You'll find that Bull Kelly is a multi-dimensional character, and there's some bad stuff in him. There's some good stuff in him. And people like humans, characters like humans, are not as one-dimensional as you would think. So if you're looking for books that don't feature one-dimensional characters, I gotta recommend the Aaron Mackey series to you. And as I'm holding the book up again here, the Ralph Compton book, The Kelly Trail, by Terrence McCAULEY. This was a great read. And
wow,
again,
thank you.
I really appreciate that. So you've got something going in the Trail Drive series. You have a fourth Aaron Mackey book forthcoming, a fourth Western in that series, The Dark Sunrise, coming. Are you, Terrence McCAULEY, are you done with Mackey, or is he just maybe on hiatus for a little bit after the fourth book?
Sure. I mean, it's all going to be up to sales and how the editor and the publisher feel about the series. After the fourth one, we'll see. I mean, hopefully they'll sell well enough and I'll be able to continue that series. I do know that if once you read Get Out of Town, you'll have a better sense of where the series as a whole is going to go. And one of those characters is going to be spun off and have his own series. So you read the book, and by the end of the fourth book, you'll be able to say, you'll understand, oh, wow, okay, this character's getting his own new series. That's fantastic. So Mackie and Billy will still be there. They'll be in the background. But I would plan on continuing to advance that universe as much as possible. So more to come in the Mackey universe. Okay.
You definitely have a fan in SHR Media Chat. Leslie says, hey, ask Terrence, what does he think his best suspense book is? That's the kind of thing that I personally like to read. I guess that's kind of like saying, well, hey, Terrence, do you have a favorite child? Well, do you have one of the books in your university series that may appeal to someone first, do you think?
Sure. I think if you're in the mood for a techno thriller, a spy thriller, I would start out with the ebook version of Sympathy for the Devil. I say the ebook version because there were some problems with the first run of Sympathy for the Devil in print, and the wrong version got published with some problems, and I got hit pretty hard for that in the reviews. But the ebook version is clean and it's up to date, and that one could be a good place to start. If you enjoy thrillers that are atmospheric and set in another time period, I would also recommend starting out with Prohibition, which was a 1930s New York City set novel that kind of kicks everything off. And it is ultimately tied in with the university series, though you don't get to know that until a little bit later on. If you like Prohibition, then I would suggest Slow Burn, which is a sequel of sorts to Prohibition, but from a different character standpoint, and then the Fairfax Incident, which is set in 1933 New York, during a very interesting and tense time in the United States history, before World War II.
Yes. slight blowing it up a little bit, slight bigfooting it. Yeah, Nazis are involved in that one. Ooh, I didn't say it. Just slap me, darn it! I didn't say that. You are very popular here tonight because, again, in chat, somebody asks you, Terrence, do you have any favorite authors?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, favorite authors of different genres. Mark Cameron is a fantastic writer with the Jericho Quinn series. He also writes some of the Tom Clancy books. He's definitely somebody you'd want to have on your show. I would definitely put him on your guest list. He's someone you'll want to have on there. And then in terms of Westerns, I've had the opportunity to meet some great writers. I mean, you've got Sean Lynch, who was another person you should definitely have on your show. He wrote a great book called Death Rattle. Brett Cogburn, who's the grandson of Rooster Cogburn, is also one hell of a writer.
Really?
And, he has a whole slew of Westerns that you won't believe. I definitely look him up. He's fantastic. L.J. Martin, he's written a bunch of other genres. He's been writing since God knows when. I mean, all great books. You can't pick up a bad one. I don't think you can write a bad book. And Kat Martin, his wife, is also a very good writer, too. And then if you want to stay with Westerns, Peter Brandvold, he writes a bunch of diverse characters, and he knows how to tell a story. And I always enjoy his work, too. There's another guy named Robert Vaughn who's prolific. He's been writing for a long time. And his stuff, if you're looking to get into Westerns and you want to know how to write one or you just want to read something straightforward, all of his series are very accessible. Because I found that the Louis L'Amour types and the Zane Grey types don't always translate very well to the modern ear or the modern eye if you're the reader, because they wrote in a different time and they had a different style. And they also kind of soft-pedaled certain things. And, these writers I've mentioned don't do that, and they tell a hell of a story.
And again, it seems like the two of you are kind of on a wavelength. Leslie in chat said, hey, I read Death Rattle.
Yep.
So
Excellent book.
I find that very interesting. Now, Terrence McCAULEY, you also have Compton's Ride the Hammer Down coming in the Gunfighter series. And you have Compton's Stagecoach to Hell in the Sundown Riders series coming, not published yet. If they would have you, would you continue with the Ralph Compton series?
Sure, I definitely would be a fool to not want to work with Berkeley and the great people over at Penguin. I have a great editor over there. If they wanted me to, sure. And if they wanted me to work on something completely new or revitalize a character that I have already out there, like James Hicks or Charlie Doherty, I'd love to. They're a great shop. They're very professional. They do what they say, and I have absolutely no complaints. So yes, I hope to work with them on future Westerns and future genre pieces. I'd love that.
I have an observation to make, and then I'm going to end it with a question for you. We know that in the Great Depression, in the late 20s, early 30s, movies were popular because they were a form of escapism. We can't yet return to the movies. We're kind of encapsulated in our homes with streaming, etc. We can't... this is confounding to me, particularly. We can't really escape with sports because they've become the exact opposite of escapism. They've been politicized beyond belief. So I know that more and more people are turning to reading. So I have to ask, isn't the Western genre even kind of more of an escapist venue? Do you see that? I think the point I'm trying to make is, in my opinion, this might be a really good time to write what you're writing. People, I would expect, are thirsting for something to go, oh, hell no, I don't want to think about this crap anymore. I want to go someplace else.
Right. I mean, it is if the reader is open-minded. When I was at a mystery writers event, I won't say which one, when I first signed with Pinnacle, people would ask, "Oh, what's your next book?" I said, "Oh, it's going to be a Western." And almost all of them wrinkled their nose and said, "Oh, just that cowboys and Indian stuff? Didn't we treat those people horribly?" I mean, who wants to read that? They're all pretty much the same. Or, "Oh, my grandfather used to read those." Yeah, they're Zane Grey, Louis L'Amour, and they kind of look down at the genre. But, if you go on the Western Writers of America website and you take a look at the books that they've nominated every year for the Silver Spur Award, you're going to see open fiction and nonfiction. You are going to see a diverse layout of books that are just going to knock your socks off. You have people who wrote about organized labor movement out west in the early 1900s. They wrote about railroad technology. They've written about lawmen and women who survived the West and tough towns. I mean, the stuff about squaring off on Main Street at high noon and shooting at each other, that stuff just never happened. And you spent enough time around people with guns and firearms to know you'd be a damn fool to stand in the middle of the street while you let some guy shoot at you. And same thing back then. They went through a hell of a lot to get out there. You're not going to go through all of that, and just because some jerk tells you to come out, you're going to stand there and just shoot at each other fair? Hell no, you come out the door blasting. And that's what they did, have fights and everything, of course, but not like that. And so it's such, as I said earlier, it's such a uniquely American experience with the Western expansion, good and bad, and there is so much to write about. I hope people will look at it with a renewed interest. I hope people will give new writers like me a shot and see that the genre is not your grandfather's Westerns per se. And the writers themselves, as I mentioned earlier, there were 2 people of color who contacted me this week, and I'm dying to read what they write because it's factual and it's authentic, and there's something there for everybody. And so yeah, Westerns might be one of those genres that take off. I mean, anything to help us get away from this political nightmare that we're going through right now.
Nightmare. Boy, is that ever correct. I thank you for your time tonight. In reflection, I want to point to your books again. If you're interested in the University series of novels, Terrence McCAULEY, an award-winning thriller writer, come on, mouth work, has Sympathy for the Devil, A Murder of Crows, A Conspiracy of Ravens. And you can find all of his books at Terrence, TERRENCE -McCAULEY, MCCAULEY .squarespace.com. Those are his thriller novels. He's got a ton available besides that. Those are the ones that are readily visible on his website. Then if you're interested in Westerns, Terrence McCAULEY has the Aaron Mackey series. The first one, Where the Bullets Fly. The second one, Dark Territory. Third one, Get Out of Town. That just came out. It hasn't gotten to me yet. And the fourth one coming is Dark Sunrise, then in the Ralph Compton series of novels. The one that's out now, that I'm showing to everybody, The Kelly Trail, that is out right now on the Trail Drive series. Forthcoming, oh boy, for whatever reason, it just hung up. Okay, well, let's try it again.
Hello.
There we go. Anyway,
okay.
The next in the Ralph Compton series is Ride the Hammer Down. That's in the Gunfighter series. And then the other one, the last one coming, is Stagecoach to Hell in the Shadow Riders series. So you are probably one of the busiest guys that I know of in the business. So, number one, thank you for staying up. It's 12:20, folks, on the East Coast. It's tomorrow. It's today for me. It's Friday now for Terrence. So thank you for staying up so late. Number two, I will always want to have you back for a number of reasons. And not to blow smoke up your skirts or anything like that, even if you do wear skirts, that's okay with me. Who am I to judge that? But the other thing is, you're a great writer, an author. I've watched you progress. To me, that is a pleasure. Number two, the reason that I value is that you are what people on my side call a good interview, sometimes even an easy interview, meaning that you are cogent. You don't squeak like a rat when you talk. It's like, good God, this guy is a blessing in disguise. A great author can carry on a cogent speech, a great interview, and for that I will always be grateful. And someday I really do want to have like maybe a half hour or an hour just talking about books and movies, some of our faves. I would love that to do that.
Yeah, that's same thing here, and I thank everybody for who tuned in for putting up with my Bronx accent, and I thank everybody who was on the chat rooms and sent in questions. And I encourage everybody, go to my website. You see how to contact me. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or shoot me an email. And, don't be afraid to connect. I love getting feedback from people.
As Jeremy Hansen said in Facebook chat, awesome guest.
Wow.
So,
thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you ever so kindly for being here. I will have you back. Obviously, when you get a new novel and it doesn't sound... Well, let me ask you this then, Terrence McCAULEY. How long before you might be releasing another novel, do you think?
I think Ride the Hammer Down, which was inspired... The title of which was inspired by you, by the way, is going to be coming out within 2 months or so.
Okay.
And, so it's all on Amazon. You can take a look at that. But if you're going to buy my books in print, sure, you can go through Amazon, you can go through Barnes & Noble. But also, if you go to your independent bookstore and ask them to order it, they certainly can do that. It's also a great way of supporting a local business.
Okay, I'm not going to ignore that comment. You said that was a reference to me. How was Ride the Hammer Down a reference to me?
Well, I heard you talking about gun safety on one of your shows, and I was watching a Western, and I forget which one it was, and the guy said, "You better ride that hammer down, or you're going to get hurt." And then what you had mentioned about gun safety popped into my head, and I said, "Wow, that's a great title for a book." So I pitched them on it, and that one actually is the one that they let me keep. They let me keep Ride the Hammer Down. And when you read the description of the novel on Amazon, you'll see that this is about a guy who's half-cocked, who's fully cocked, actually, has gone through a lot, and he has to learn how to ride that hammer down, so on himself and on a lot of things in his life. So you gave me inspiration for that one, my friend, and for that I thank you.
Well, thank you. When your book comes out in another month or two, whenever that is, I would love to have you back. Would that be acceptable, Terrence McCAULEY?
More than acceptable. I look forward to it.
I can, we are coasts apart, but I would like to be able to call you my friend in the saloon. You are a great interview, great books. Folks, read Terrence McCAULEY, multi-genre kind of guy. Thank you, sir, again for being here tonight.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it and look forward to talking to you soon. And thanks to everybody who tuned in.
Thank you, sir. And I think you're going to get some more bites on your books. Excellent. Excellent. Great. Folks, that was Terrence McCAULEY. What a great guy, great author, great interview. If you haven't purchased his books, and like I indicate, the only thing that I promote here in the saloon is stuff I buy, stuff I read, stuff I see. That's it. I'm not getting paid a thing from anybody to do any of this stuff. That's not how it works. I generally don't have ads here. If you go to my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net, it's not full of toe fungus ads and all that crap. I'm here spending my own money and my own time doing things, reading about people, interviewing people that I love to hear about. These are great people. Terrence McCAULEY is a great author. You need to read him. What an amazing individual. Okay. Now, that having been said, we are going to move into politics. Before we do that, I have to find out where, let's see, where is, doggone it. Okay. There we go. I'm going to have to do a brief commercial so I can find out where the noise of this fan is coming from for the past hour and a half that I can hear over the microphone, and I bet you can too. So we'll do this, and then we'll be right back. We'll be back with Jack Alexander. Let's see, where is this dude? Dingo Dundee in Facebook chat has been talking about, he is from Australia, and he says, I won't believe all the crazy crap that's going on in Australia. And the answer to that is, oh, yes, I will. Because I have had Jack Alexander on the show many times before. He's going to be back. He's on hold right now while I do a break. And then I will be back with Jack Alexander, Dingo Dundee. Listen, because I think Jack Alexander may end up bigfooting you. And then I've got Sackhead Sean right here in the studio. And we will both be live for the remainder of the show. So I will be right back after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show here on the SHR Media Network. Jump into our sumptuous and palatial chat room right now at shrmedia.com. Call us when the phone lines are open. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California and working without a net. You're in the saloon.
I like the little birds kind of twittering in the background in that. Anyway, so we're back. One of the reasons that there you go.
Probably need that.
I know. There's got to be a... oh, there you go. There's the headphones for you. I think I have turned the volume up for you sufficiently.
Yeah, if you could, that would be extensively awesome.
More.
Yeah, even more, because I'm getting nothing.
Oh, that's because I'm turning the wrong knob. Let's try turning the right knob, BZ. Okay, how about that one?
There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
Right around there?
There it is. Perfect.
Okay. Perfect. So, Sackhead Sean back in the saloon, and something occurred recently in Australia that I shipped over to Jack Alexander. First, Jack Alexander, good evening, or in your case, good day.
Before you do that, I actually have breaking news.
Oh, okay.
That's
what do you got?
Legitimate breaking news.
Okay.
So, the U.S. Federal Marshals this evening went to an address just outside Portland to arrest Michael Rowanell, who is the suspect in the Aaron Danielson shooting in Portland, the 100% Antifa member who did an interview with Vice magazine today.
Oh, that dude, yeah. Because my first thought was, okay, so he can do an interview with Vice and he's not under arrest because...
Well, federal U.S. Marshals showed up to the house before they were able to effect the arrest. He jumped into his car and drove at them, and he is now ventilated.
Is he an ex-suspect?
He is an ex-suspect. He is no longer on this mortal coil.
Okay,
so to speak. If you haven't nailed him to the branch, he'd be pushing up the daisies, so to speak.
There's the Monty Python reference I've been waiting for.
But he was killed in a shooting tonight, just outside of Portland, by all accounts so far, and it's early. I don't know if it's if all the answers are in, but so far it sounds like it is a suicide by cop. He knew it was coming, which would actually make sense. He was the guy who was the 100% Antifa. He'd been arrested 2 other times previously for possession of a firearm, with just a few weeks ahead of the actual shooting. Illegal firearm, but because it was in Portland and they're not prosecuting anything, he was out walking around. He'd been arrested, I believe, at least 1 or 2 other times protesting, but still out walking around.
Protesting.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is. And he was out walking around. So as of this evening, he is no longer a suspect. He is a former suspect.
He's just dead.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Sackhead Sean, thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, you're welcome.
I also wanted to talk to Jack Alexander. I shipped this article to me, and his first response after I shipped the video to him was WTF. And that's about this. Well, first, Jack, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure that you are present. There's an article, the first I became aware of this situation in Australia. And again, wasn't it Victoria Police that did this?
Yes.
So my first question is, Jack, what the hell is it with Victoria Police arresting people behind Wuhan 19?
Well, thanks to the governor and his now extended emergency powers for another 6 months, basically the rule of law has been flushed down the shitter.
No, what?
Cops are running ruckshot over the Constitution, over civil liberties, and, well, if you try and fight them with it, the Premier of the state, which is the equivalent of the governor for our American audience, has basically said, you try and fight this in court. Well, first of all, you can't get it tried in court because civil cases against the government actions are deemed unessential in this time of crisis, so they shut those courts down.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Well, look, when you have COVID, all due process goes out the window.
Yeah. And the other thing that Daniel Andrews has promised is that the government will bankrupt anyone that tries to challenge them on it.
That's fair.
Because, and you know, it's coming now, you've got your $2,000 fine for being caught outside of your 3-mile radius from your registered address. And you argue with a cop, assuming you don't get the shit beaten out of you, that automatically jumps up to $10,000.
Well, I mean, that seems very reasonable with Australian money.
There can who could possibly object to that?
Yeah. And just the other night at 2:00 in the morning, the state Senate voted 20 to 19 in favor of granting the governor more powers and extending it for 6 months.
Well, look, it sounds like it's working perfectly so far. It sounds like it's working dead nuts, so why not make it more? More government is always better.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's not more government. It's dictated. They've gone from the democratic process over to outright dictatorship. He has essentially ultimate control, and there is no way for the people to challenge it, either in the polls, because we don't have recall elections. To have a special election here, they've got to actually quit or die while in office. You can't challenge it legally. The federal government seems to be completely castrated. They won't step in and try and stand up for the constitutional rights of Australians living within the state of Victoria.
Well, that's funny because that led to a civil war here.
Well, See, but they've been working for this for a long time. They made sure before they started doing this sort of horse shit that they removed the people's ability to access the tools of civil war.
Right, that's a story direct from 1996, kids.
But now they're arresting people for social media posts.
Why not?
That are protesting against what's going on in this state. A pregnant woman was arrested under the federal incitement and sedition laws for trying to organize an online virtual protest.
Okay, let me see. What I'd like to do is this, Jack. I'd like to play a portion of the video. And then you tell us basically what this is and what we're hearing. So first, the video that I became aware of through, let's see, news.com.au. So this is Australian news covering this.
You can show me your search warrant before you go through my house.
You're the occupier?
She's pregnant.
I own this house.
And Dad is holding a kid.
Has two young kids.
For what?
Now, what I will explain to you is if you want to listen, you got your phone going?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Right. Now, you're under arrest in relation to incitement.
Incitement?
What's that? Now, you're not obliged to say or do anything, but anything you say or do may be given evidence.
Excuse me, incitement for what? What on earth? Excuse me, what on
BC, just pause
earth?
that for a second.
Phone down.
Can you, like...
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I want to touch on this incitement thing because it is relevant.
Okay.
It stems to the Sedition in Media Act, which was loosely put up and was tried in the Supreme Court of Australia on a test basis that any any media broadcast that is overly critical of the government the incumbent government can be found in as being inciting sedition. Now, with people now live streaming on social media, they're now taking what a law that was meant for radio and television broadcast and now applying that to social media. That's the law is written in such a way that during election season, if a broadcaster was to run an ad for a non-incumbent, they could be charged with incitement to sedition. That's how loosely worded the law is. This is the first time I've actually seen it used against the public outside of just test cases. And so what they've done, they've said, okay, you are going to broadcast this on Facebook. Well, let's apply this law to it. And because it is so loosely written, now the thing is, this young woman was trying to organise a virtual protest because people can't get together. They risk being assaulted by police.
I know, it's terrible.
And arrested. So she was going to do this online so that people could still express their opinions, demand a redress of grievances, but still obey the draconian COVID restrictions by doing it all online. I mean, how much more social distancing do you need to have? But because she called for this protest, and under the emergency powers the governor, the premier, has been given or has given himself, he can now shut that down and apply these incitement and sedition laws.
You know what? If I was an employee in Australia and I had to work remotely via Zoom, I'd say, look, obviously this isn't social distancing enough, so I can't work right now because they just arrested a woman for trying to socially distance. Obviously, I mean, yeah.
Well, Sean, I'm actually waiting for law enforcement to knock on my door. I mean, on my show, I have been incredibly critical of the government.
And you should be.
And, yeah. And so it's only through, foresight and having a VPN that if they try and do a trace on me, that they'll see that my show is being broadcast from Las Vegas, Nevada.
A beautiful city.
Yeah. Well, warm this time of year.
Yeah.
Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely place. And I saw you there.
I mean,
You did.
Eventually, they'll probably find a way through it. And being former military, I don't expect a couple of fat detectives knocking on my door like this woman had. No, I expect the
Australian SAS.
I expect the SWAT team to turn up at 4 a.m.
Let me make this observation, Jack Alexander, if I can.
He's going to be mad that you said fat detective. Just so you know, he's going to be mad about that.
No,
I was talking about BZ.
No, I was. Listen, in the 90s, I was 100 less than I am now, but I was still kind of the chubby. You could call me, in the 90s, you could call me sturdy.
Sturdy.
So I was the sturdy.
I was going to say portly.
No, sturdy.
No, I was sturdy, dude. I was sturdy. Okay, so in Facebook chat, there's a guy called Dingo Dundee, and
he's a viewer of my show.
Oh, okay, all right, and he says basically that he's really glad that he's in South Australia as opposed to you being in Victoria, 2 different states. Now, are those 2 territories, 2 states in Australia, that markedly different, Jack?
Victoria is essentially completely isolated for the foreseeable future.
Sounds like it should be.
Because what the Premier is doing, but because the majority of the deaths for COVID have happened in Victoria, essentially we are banned from traveling anywhere in the country.
Jesus.
Okay, Jack, hang on just for.
We're not even allowed to leave the country. We're not even allowed to leave the country at the moment.
Well, and you have a 3-mile radius limit to how far you can travel away from your residence, correct?
Yeah. And I mean, given what's going on here with now them arresting people for Facebook posts and so on, I'm shitting myself, at the moment in fear.
Yeah.
Okay, let me throw this out here just for a second, Jack and Sean. Mm-hmm. Dingo Dundee, the guy that's in Facebook chat right now, says, "Hey, if you want me to call in, that's fine. I've got a line open." Now, the big problem with this is that you're on another line on Facebook, and physically, the way I have to work this out is the only availability that I have for Dingo Dundee is the 575 number. So I don't, that has to be a massive phone bill.
Unless he's calling from a one of the IPN lines.
Okay, well, I'm going to send a message to him. Call 5.
You work
7,
on that.
5.
Yeah, don't need to talk out loud while you type it. I can talk to Jack.
All righty, talk to Jack.
Damn old timers.
Hey.
So, and Jack, what's crazy to me is, and again, we look at the lockdown here, and it's horrific. There's so many constitutional issues with it. We're looking at all the CDC numbers and how just wrong everything was, and all the comorbidity. Did I say it right? I always hate that word.
Comorbidity.
Morbidity.
Close enough.
Causes. And it boggles the mind to say, okay, we're getting all of this evidence, and as much as we were relying on other countries, other countries are going to rely on our evidence. We see that COVID, okay, it's more contagious, but if you are a young, healthy person under the age of 60, you may most likely not even know you had COVID, and if you do, it's going to be a sniffle at best. Do you foresee that transitioning over to Australia anytime soon, where they may start to loosen up the grip on you guys?
Other states are looking at it.
Oh.
Victoria are clamping down even tighter. The Daniel Andrews here does not want to relinquish power in any way, shape, or form. They've used loopholes and misinterpretations of legislation to get where they are in what essentially has been a coup and a a biological secession from the Commonwealth.
Unbelievable. My follow-up question for you, Jack, is we're seeing in Canada, I don't know if you've been following Canada politics at all, the Conservatives are starting to get a big bump because of COVID and some other things, but you're starting to see more favorable conservative leanings amongst the Canadian citizens. Do you feel like that would parlay? And I think you're going to see that worldwide. Look, you're seeing it in this country. I still say I think the election's going to be a landslide. I think that in other countries you're starting to see more people being like, oh, maybe those crazy conservatives weren't so bad.
Happened in Germany. Germany is finally coming around with regard to China.
Yeah. So do you think, I know you guys, there's a lot of water between here and there, and it's really hard for you guys to import stuff. Do you think you can start importing a little bit more conservative leanings in Australia as a result?
Look, during the last election cycle, that was starting to happen. But, then, COVID happened.
Right.
And the left, and Daniel Andrews is a member of the Labor Party. And the Liberal Party here is the more conservative of the major political parties.
Right.
So you can just imagine how bad the Labor Party is. They're hardcore socialists.
Right.
To get into politics as in the Labor Party, you have to have served an apprenticeship as the leader of a labor union.
Okay, I'm going to try something different, new and unique. I think, fingers crossed, because it's me. Okay, Techno-Luddite, 1A and 1B right here. I think I have Dundee on the line. Are you there? The line is open. Can you hear us?
Yeah, g'day, mate. Can you hear me?
Now I've got you.
Well, now I won't be able to tell them apart.
No, I can tell.
Oh.
That's Jack.
Lightning, Sean.
Wait a minute, that deserves a...
Thank you.
So,
Dundee, welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
May you forever drive a Freightliner.
Oh. Ooh, that's a zing.
I'll pass you in the van.
Damn. My dad was pissed off when he went up Highway 50 years ago in the 1950s in a brand new Chrysler station wagon. He took it back the next day when he says a Ham's beer truck passed him on the Myers grade.
That's outstanding.
So, Dingo Dundee, welcome. What do you got to say, sir?
G'day, mate. God bless all. G'day, Jack. Always following you, mate. Unfortunately, I just don't get my times right because, I got a few things going on here at the moment. My mum's in with mental health. But, look, there's just been another post. Another guy tried to do the video, tried to share it. Facebook's taken it down. He just got his door beaten in because he is... there was talk that tomorrow is meant to be a massive rally around Australia because people are sick to death of this COVID-19 and everything else. And there was a video of another guy who shared about the lockdown and going to the rally, and the cops broke his door down.
Unbelievable.
Now, is this in South Australia?
No, this will be in Victoria,
This is
mate.
Victoria.
Victoria's the one that has the law. They've got the stage 4 law that Daniel Andrews brought in with his little bunch of Fabian mates and all the rest of it. And I don't know whether you know what a Fabian is, but it's basically a socialist and Marxism. It was created in England, I think, around 1910. And their logo is actually a wolf with a sheep's pelt on its back.
Oh,
It's
Jesus.
the old term, wolf in sheep's clothing.
God. Let's be a little obvious, shall we?
No, they nailed subtlety right there. I don't even know.
God. Okay, I was looking at some stats.
There's actually a little bit of history on the whole wolf thing. The Labor Party was formed during a massive shearers strike in Australia back
No kidding.
around 1910. A whole lot, and this is going to go off at Dundee a little bit because he was actually born in New Zealand. a whole bunch of New Zealand shearers were coming over, and they were using a wider comb to shear sheep.
God,
and
dang
they were
those
able
guys.
to shear the sheep faster than the local guys, and there was a massive shearer strike over it.
Fucking
so,
bastards.
Hence the wolf in sheep's clothing iconography when it comes to the Labor Party. But yeah, it really does mean something different now, like the donkey with the Democrat Party there.
Yeah, no, it means the same thing now. They're both asses.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the donkey Democrats, and I want to get both your reactions because a little bit of we talked some Australian politics. I want to talk a little bit of American politics, just kind of see what you guys react across the pond. And we both know, or all four of us now know who Joe Biden is, obviously, the Democrat nominee. And then today, Sniffer. Today, while he was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, meeting with the victim or the suspect that was shot by police last week, shot in the back, 7 shots. Everyone knows the story at this point. He is doing a speech afterwards in which he is talking about his tax plan. And this is amazing. As he continues in his conversation, he says, well, I have to stop myself. If I go any longer, they'll shoot me.
They'll shoot me. Okay, Sean, how did you interpret that? That can go a whole bunch of different crazy-ass ways.
It's just Joe. So, and we used to, on Sackheads years ago, we used to have this little thing called What Would Joe Biden Do when he was still vice president. And what we would do with that is we would come up with a funny situation and then come up with the most extreme answers for whatever the situation was bearing at the moment. And that was Clinton and I's little thing for a long time. We had a blast. The reality of the situation is it's not a reach anymore. The things that are coming out of his mouth are ridiculous.
Wait, have I got 30 seconds for you?
Go ahead. And then I want the boys from over there.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives, when you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years.
Such an orator. Just the guy has the gift of gab. There's no doubt about it. Guys, and Dingo can go first because he's the guest.
Well, and I think he was getting gas, too.
But I want Dingo to answer first. Do you guys look at America like we in America look at the state of Florida? Because all the crazy shit happens in Florida, right?
Oh, God, everything wants to kill you in Australia, and everything wants to kill you in Florida.
Yeah, it's amazing. Dingo, your first response.
That's true.
Look, I'll be honest, mate. Democrats, their hashtag should be dementia matters. Because that's what they're doing.
I love that.
That might have to fly now.
I'm going to have to make a logo of that.
All dementia matters.
Look, I love my Uncle Donald. Uncle Donald is a godly person. He's a realist. He's done more in 3 years than the Democrats have done in 30. But Jack is 100% like me, that we both realise that if America burns, the world burns. The game's over.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
done.
I will agree.
Done and dusted. And Sniff and Joe, that guy and Kamala, oh, no, I like black people unless I have to put them in prison and then they can make me money. They've just been after money. And the worst thing is, your country is going through what the Democrats have done for 30 years.
Yeah.
The black community has been sent poor. You know, your rate of fatherless black families, results in crime. It's a scientific proof. They have created and put all the fuel on the fire, and then they're blaming Uncle Donald for lighting the fire, but they lit it themselves.
Yeah.
They did it in 1964, 1965. That was LBJ's Great Society, when you paid once nuclear black families more money to kick the father out than to keep the father. The Democrats destroyed the once nuclear black American family. Thanks.
All dementia matters.
Yeah, I'm going to have to make a meme out of that. Jesus.
I love it.
It is true.
That's some merchandise just waiting to be printed.
Oh, yeah, it is. Somebody's going to jump on it. I love it.
Do you want to make a T-shirt off of that? I'll make the meme, and you want to help me sell the T-shirt?
Yeah. Okay. No, this is just amazing. Right. Jack,
send it to me. I'll start it going in my merch store.
There you go. Now you're talking. Now you're talking.
Jack, I know we talk a little bit more, but your insight to just exactly what I asked Ingo.
Yeah, look, it's exactly the same. I think a lot of people look at Joe Biden, but and wonder what the hell is going on. But on the other hand, all of the news agencies in Australia get their U.S. news licensed from CNN, ABC, and all the leftist ones there. So the packages that are put forward to most Australians see, and I get regular hostile texts from my mother saying, how could you support this? And I saw this on the news, and I said, yeah. That's what was said on that channel. Here's what really happened, Mother.
Yes.
And most Australians either don't know where to find the truth or don't care enough.
Right, or they're afraid if they find the truth, they'll get arrested for going to a website, which sounds like it's going to happen more and more. Well, basically. I saw a great meme that came out last week. Essentially, it was a picture of a guy who obviously looked Eastern European. I don't know if he was or not, but it said he was just kind of giving like that smiling thumbs up where he's not really happy, but it's like everyone in the U.S. is talking about how socialism is great working in Europe. Meanwhile, everyone in Europe knows that as soon as that the only reason why socialism hasn't failed is because the amount of money that the U.S. pours into Europe. And I thought that was like unbelievably summed up.
Bing. Let me play an audio cut for everybody here that occurred today at a Biden event where some chick came up in front of Joe and everyone and revealed how fake everything is with regard to Joe Biden. She's a black chick. Everybody's wearing some kind of a face covering, comes up to the microphone, and then she says this.
Oh, Portia.
Hello, my name is Portia Bennett. I'm just going to be honest, Mr. Biden. I was told to go off this paper, but I can't. You need the truth. And now I'm part of the truth.
And she asked a decent question, and but the simple fact of the matter is that is unbelievably the tip of the hat, or the tip of the hand, so to speak, saying, hey, all of this is set up.
Everything is scripted. Biden can't do anything that is unscripted.
Oh, he's going to get COVID, watch, before the debates.
Why
do you think he's walking around shaking hands and doing all these media things right now?
And
that's going to be how he gets COVID. And he's going to duck the debates, or he's going to do it via like Zoom or something like that, and probably after every question get up, go to the bathroom, and then come back and have the answer.
No, he doesn't even have to do that. I mean,
no.
All he's got to do is have
exactly.
Zoom on one machine and being fed the answers on a laptop or on his phone off to the side.
Yep.
I mean, he doesn't have to go in. Have to use the Winkle chamber to get the answers.
The what now?
He doesn't have to go out and use the Winkle chamber.
No, listen. If you're going to say it, Jack, say it right. I always call it the electric Winkle chamber.
Well, the problem with that is
they don't have electricity.
I imagine the electric Winkle chamber is. Once in my life, I made the mistake of taking a whiz on an electric fence.
Bad.
It's a mistake you only make once in life.
And folks, for just those who might have recently tuned in, by the way, water is a great conductor.
Yes, it runs amazingly.
And I don't mean
when it's full of urine.
Yeah, and I don't mean Brahms or Beethoven either.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, we got to go for the week. Next Tuesday night, I have Eric Regard on in the first hour. If you guys are so inclined, Eric can only be here for 1 hour, which he's going to talk about District 9, the California Assembly. Always spell it with a K. If you guys want to come back in the second hour and continue this with regard to Australia and anything else that happens to hit our brains, would you guys be interested in doing that? I don't know.
I love having the Aussies on.
I think it's that's my point. I love having a second perspective.
It's an international show.
On a lot of stuff. A different perspective is really enticing, I think.
And they drink.
Well, now, Dingo, you drink.
Well, that's because your American beer is rather like making love in a canoe.
It's fucking close to water.
Yeah.
American beer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you guys got sold on the Fosters. Fosters is garbage. We just sell it to you because we need the money. It's garbage.
Okay.
No Australian drinks Fosters.
Well, that's like
just like no Mexicans drink Corona.
Right.
Yeah.
I made this discovery.
Hey, I drink dark beer.
Yeah,
so.
I was on my first extradition to Texas. So I go to a town in Texas.
Lone Star?
It's a dry... Wait. God damn you. Would you stop, Sackhead Sean? Jesus. I can't tell a damn story.
Go ahead. I knew.
Hang on a second. This town wouldn't be Henrietta.
No,
outside of Wichita?
it wasn't. It was
okay,
I was making an extradition in Texas. This was in the 90s, and there were I don't know if there still might be dry counties and wet counties in Texas. I don't know, but I found a cop from this town that will remain nameless, and I said, "Hey, myself and my partner just blew into town. We're going to do an extradition from blah 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 jail." And this looks like a dry county. He's, well, partner, go about 250 yards right over there. See that liquor store right there? That is just beyond the other county line. And you want to have a great time? I recommend Lone Star. And he started laughing and drove off. And we thought, okay, he knows something that we don't. So I had my first Lone Star. And it's probably like you guys having, I don't know, Coors or something like that. It's like, oh my God, this is Bear Whiz beer.
Yeah. The only reason why it was being cold only numbed your throat so you couldn't taste it. But and I don't know if Australia has this. I know we don't only have a lot of time, but it seems like every region has.
I home brew.
Oh, so you're a bragger.
I home brew.
Oh, you lucky bastard!
No, I home brew. And my beer's about 24%.
Outstanding. But we have.
You need a name for it.
Every area around here has their own local beer.
Sure, craft breweries.
No. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 50s, because there was no cross. You have to remember, you couldn't sell across state lines.
Oh, Smokey and the Bandit.
Right. I mean, there's a reason that movie exists. So a lot of areas, like I know in the Northeast, we had Narragansett. There was Knickerbocker. That's where Pabst Blue Ribbon was a local one for the longest time.
I was in Ohio, couldn't get a Coors.
Yep, Coors, you couldn't get Coors. So everywhere had that. Lone Star, obviously Texas, everywhere had this little brewery or local brew that everyone used to drink. Schlitz was obviously Milwaukee before Milwaukee became Anheuser-Busch.
Hams.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was Miller. It was actually Milwaukee. It was Miller.
Does Miller? Is there Miller beer anymore? Yeah. I don't know.
Miller High Life. Yeah.
Is there the champagne of bottled beers?
No, that's Coors. Coors is the champagne beer. The banquet beer.
No, Coors is the banquet beer.
Yeah. Trash.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to make a fortune out of your U.S. Marines. I'm ex-Army. I used to make a fortune out of your U.S. Marines coming and bragging about drinking beer, and I would sit there and I'd drink a cup and I'd get through half of it, pass out, and I'd just be putting my hand out going, I'll take the money.
Well, and so the difference is I primarily drink hard alcohol now, but I was a huge beer drinker back in the day. But it's like even when you cross the border and you go over to Canada, the proof is higher. And it's almost like going up to altitude and drinking. It just catches up to you so much quicker than you think it will. And yeah, well, Marines, you give them a couple drinks and they're just going to throw it down their throat and see what happens. That's seriously how, we won World War II. There's a reason you're not speaking Japanese right now, pal.
Well, and I
it's even worse when you got to drag them back to their billet and they're bloody heavy.
Yeah.
Or their ship.
I'm sure they were appreciative.
I
know
could
we
tell
have
a
to go.
Marine joke right now, but for all the people that are Marines, they would
Love
hate
'em.
me.
No, yeah, you know what? Look, let them eat their crayons, and they are amazing human beings.
Of course they are.
I have so many friends who are Marines.
Okay, I'll do the joke, but I won't do the answer.
Okay, and then we'll go.
All right. Why are there Marines on Navy ships?
I don't know the answer to this one.
Do you guys know?
No.
Okay. Sheep would be too obvious.
No.
The New Zealander will get it.
All right. Okay.
The most beautiful thing is the Australian military has always been America's best mate and always will be.
Yeah.
No, and it's the same thing that we feel about Australia. We feel for your predicament, like in many instances in the past, you guys have probably looked to the United States and thought, what the fuck are they doing that for?
Well, and as I said to Jack before, look, we're both cast off from the British. We're brethren for a reason.
Why are there 4 of these little dots quivering around on my chest right now from outside? Because we got the door open to the studio, and there's all these little dots.
And it's weird when I
that
lean
are on my chest.
When I lean
now.
right, they go away, and then I lean left, and they come right back.
Why is that?
So it's magic and
Probably
sparkly.
Victoria Police.
Probably the Victoria Police,
or the Marines.
Victoria Police.
Before we go, guys,
Yes, sir.
I'm legitimately, and all joking aside, begging for help because of the situation here. I've got a video package that I'm putting together and putting out there, and trying to flood my social media with it. With all the news headlines and so on, showing just how far down the rabbit trail to dictatorship I'm now living in, and to the point where I no longer feel safe because of the work that I do. And I'm putting this video out there so that hopefully the listeners will download it and send it to their Congress people and federal senators, and ask them to put pressure on the U.S. consulate in an embassy in Australia to help me. I want to get my family out of here, because I have no doubts that they will come and knock on my door eventually and arrest me for exposing what is going on here.
That's better than exposing
I
us.
am actually, in all seriousness and joking aside, I am asking for help to get political asylum in the United States, because it is just that dangerous here. If you are a conservative broadcaster.
Well, look. I mean, obviously, send it out, and we'll put our ramps to use.
We'll do whatever we can on this end,
and I'm sure we can do some work and post it on our website too when it comes out. If you want to link it, or if Jack wants to write like a guest link, send it to you, and you can post it. on his behalf.
I'll post it on SHR. You bet.
Yeah. Look, Jack, you're talking to the owner right now, so shit's getting done.
I agree with Jack, because I'll tell you what, like Jack's an Australian, but Jack knows, like me, and we've looked at the world. And unfortunately, Jack being in Victoria at the moment, and this is going to go for another 6 months, it's not going to be healthy for him. Why? Because he speaks the truth. And he's got the platforms, he's put all his work in, he needs to get to America. Look, I'll be honest, I've already had 2 visits in my life so far from the Australian Federal Police and the South Australian Police for my Facebook posts. 2 visits already.
That kind of thing was occurring in Canada from Red Fox Radio. Who was the chick with the red hair?
Kelly.
And she was consistently, she had
Fritzy.
Kel Fritzy had to broadcast from a United States locale though she was actually in Canada. Yep. She couldn't make her broadcast from Canada because she would have been arrested for essentially the same thing. I don't know. She'd passed away, 2 years ago, year and a half or so ago?
Yes,
she
did.
But that's how she had to arrange her show to get around Canadian censors.
Well, I don't understand. I mean, it's so draconian, right? I mean, in the age of technology, internet freedom, look, and there are things in this country that get you a visit, and rightfully so, right? If you say something like, hey, I don't know, I may go off the president today. Okay, you're going to get a visit, and you should. Or if you said, oh, by the way, I killed somebody today.
Even some leftists get away with that crap.
And they do get away with that crap. There's time and place, but for you to express to have more freedom, legitimate freedom, like, hey, we should be allowed to get out of COVID, or hey, I think our government is doing this wrong and it needs to change. If that is garnering a visit, you are not a member of free society. You are being told that you are free with insane restrictions on your liberties. And that's a shame, and it's a tragedy to the people of Australia.
Well, the tragedy is today that we have to worry about November 4th. I'd like to keep this country in its current state so that it's the way it sits now is the way that it's going to be sitting on November 4th. Now, you and I talked at the break, Sean, about this. What kind of chaos in any event is going to happen on November 4th, whether Biden wins or whether Trump wins? At this point, it's almost immaterial.
Yeah.
But something is going to pop off seriously. Dudes in Australia, I hope we have a damn country for you to continue to want to come to.
Look, and I don't want this to happen, and I've said this a million times. I would never want this to happen, and I don't care who is in that office. I have a feeling that if President Trump is reelected, that there will be an attempt on his life. And that's sad, but I believe that to be a serious possibility, and I
possibly
think that's where it's
overt, but the underlying subtext of
Governor
that
Cuomo
is...
made a direct threat.
Yeah.
Governor Cuomo
Yes.
made
Exactly. He said,
threat.
"You will not be able."
Detail isn't going to do it. He better bring the fucking army.
You will not be able to come back to New York.
Here's the thing, and this shows you how stupid he is, and why maybe Fredo is the wrong name, or the wrong brother is called Fredo. Trump has an army, and the Navy, and the Marines, and the Air Force, and all these federal agents. Like, dude, you literally just told the president you better have an army. Yeah, he's kind of already got that covered, jackass. You know, so that shows you how smart. I think we call the wrong guy Fredo. You're talking about a guy who killed tens of thousands of people in nursing homes, writing a leadership book on COVID, and they're not even out of COVID yet.
Yeah, 11,000.
Cult of personality. So, you know, that's what we're dealing with. That's the leftist ideology. There's the same people who want you to defund the police. And look, we could go on, and I know it's late.
I have that audio cut real quick, about 30 seconds. Here we go.
He can't come back to New York.
Well, look,
He can't. He's going to walk down the street in New York. Forget bodyguard.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say this. Look, Jack is like me. We are people that are outside your bubble, outside your country. We look at everything going on in your country. We research what goes on in your country, and we are trying to wake people up. Australia is a test bed for the New World Order. Already has been. They've taken our guns, everything else. I can't even own a gun because I'm going through a divorce. That's the way this country is. We're trying to wake you up. And our voices... this is what we're trying to do. Talk to you, talk to your listeners, talk to everybody, and wake you up. And we're outside the box.
I've told Jack...
And we love you.
I've told Jack...
You guys are our mates.
Any number of times, Jack's Australia, your Australia, is a cautionary tale of what can't happen here in the United States. Because, as you said, if we die, the rest of the free world dies with us.
Correct.
It's like Reagan said, if we don't preserve this last hope for man, then we've condemned our children to 1,000 years of darkness. And I agree with that in this election more so. And I'm sorry to cut you guys off. It's
1,000 years of pedophiles.
Well, that's already here.
That's what it's going to be. Pedophiles.
That already happened in California.
Yep. So anywho,
that's sad.
Dingo, let me give you my email so that I can get either your email address or a number. I'd like to have you back on the show. Hit me at bz@shrmedia.com. bz@shrmedia.com. I'd love to have the both of you guys back.
Anytime, mate. Look, I love America. I love freedom. I love freedom of speech. I love your Constitution. Your Constitution is the most beautiful document I've ever seen in my life, and it's for the people. That's what is power, for the people.
Amen.
God bless America and Uncle Donald.
Dingo, thank you so much. It may sound silly. I'm not even being at all funny. That actually touched my heart a lot, and I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
It's true. Western civilizations have to make friends with each other while we still exist, because non-Western civilizations want to see us end.
Well, and you look at, like I said before, how closely tied we are to Australia. I said this the last time Jack was on, or I was on with Jack, I should say. You know, you could drop a whole bunch of Aussies and Americans into an island, and we will find a way to fight together and get off the island and make it work. And there's no reason why we should not be doing that now, even still. And they are in a crisis. They're in a freedom crisis that does not get reported by and large. It does not get covered by the media. Most of the people in this country have no idea what's going on, and that's a shame. It really is a true tragedy that we can have this such an amazing country like Australia, who we've been allies with for years. And the people, look, us and Aussies, for the most part, are not different. You know, we are
independent doers, movers, and shakers.
Right. They just have more shit that'll kill you over there. And obviously, they make stronger
what did
beer.
I say? Australia, everything in Australia wants to kill you. Everything in Florida wants to kill you.
Jack, my friend.
Yes, man.
Sir, we will do what we can to get the video program up for you.
Whatever you send us.
Whatever you send us, we'll do that. And if you do an audio version of it or a narrative version, then we can also put it to our Spreaker on SHR. And however we can help get that out, we will do that for you. You know that.
Absolutely.
You're a dear friend, and especially for me, we've grown this friendship just out of being guests together. But I look, you got our ear, buddy, and if anything we can do to help you, and I'll be passing you on the freeway shortly.
Oh yeah, thanks, man.
BZ, sir.
Not in a white Freightliner.
Not in a white Freightliner.
I still love that International with the Stephen King looking front end of it, like it came out of the evil monster truck film, whatever it was. God, that's a good looking front end on it.
Well, you know, and Jack and I'm sure we could probably go round and round about this, but doing a whole bunch of research. There's a mechanic I follow on YouTube, and he said, look, if you're going to buy your first truck out the gate, he's like, your best thing to buy is a Freightliner with the DD14 because there are parts everywhere and it's cheap.
Okay, so is that your first?
I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Well, we have crossed this bridge tonight. Jack, go ahead.
And the reason why I did a lot of that research is because, you know, we don't want to be a burden on the United States. That's why, you know, I've already got accommodation lined up if we can get out. I have a ton of employment opportunities that I can, you know, that we can jump on as soon as, you know, get it stepping off the plane and we're legally allowed to work. We don't need welfare. We don't need government housing. We don't need any of that. We just need the opportunity to get there.
Yeah.
And you know, that's you know, us trying to put a bit of planning in there, but also be, you know, responsible as well, because we don't want to be a burden on the American people like so many people who try to claim asylum are. You know, that's why we're trying to get all of our ducks in a row. The first opportunity we can get to try and do, you know, make a run for it, we can. But at the moment, the consulate is sticking to the official line that if anyone wants to claim asylum, they have to do it from within the United States, unless they're advised by DC to do something locally, which is why I'm taking the steps that I am to try and get this information out and asking people to send this video off to their elected officials to put pressure on the State Department to come and help us, because it's I can't get to the consulate. I've got to go through somewhere between 10 and 15 military or police checkpoints to even get close to the closest consulate in Melbourne. And, even then, the consulate is closed. There's a small expat American enclave about 10 miles away from where I am. And from what I've been told is people from the consulate, if they need to do business there, the consulate is sending people in diplomatic vehicles to come and do stuff locally. So I know people from the consulate are getting out and traveling around freely to help people. So hence the tactic that I'm trying to employ.
No, I think it's a great tactic, and God, let's hope we can get something done. And if you're a listener and you know a way that can help Jack, reach out to BZ or the show or SHR Media and let us know. That would be immense. Jack's a great guy. We would obviously love to have him in this country, and it needs to happen.
So, Dundee, thanks for being here.
It does need to happen. Anytime, mate. God bless America. God bless everybody listening. God bless your followers. And above all, God bless my Uncle Donald. Because if we don't have my Uncle Donald, I don't think God is going to bless Australia. We're going down the tube.
Hallelujah, mister. Thank you, sir.
We got to plug those holes.
And thank you, Jack.
Jack, sir, thank you as always. It's a pleasure, my friend. You owe me a beer.
An actual beer.
Get on it.
Not a Lone Star, damn it. Holy crap.
I'll find you a beer that puts hair on your head.
P.S. Jack, take some Coopers.
Coopers? Yeah, they make tires here.
And beer. Not here, though.
Best beer here.
Well, thank you guys for being here. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
It's been Dundee and Jack and Sean and BZ. And let's just listen to some music and then say goodbye. I'll be back here on Tuesday night.
He didn't say thank you to me.
Oh, Sean, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listen, thank you, Sean. Sean, comma, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave. Like I say, next Tuesday night, I'll be here with Eric Regard in the studio. He is the GOP candidate for District 9 for California Assembly, which is South Sacramento, down to Elk Grove, down to Lodi, and he's going to tell you about what's going on in politics in California. Always spell it with a K. Everybody, God bless, take care, be safe. Good night, have a great weekend.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.